The beginning of the separation, A Course in Miracles video, based on A Course in Miracles teachings. Meditation context. Keeping your attention on or in your body will keep you in the present moment. All guilt, regret, resentment, and anger is based on the past. All worry, anxiety, and fear is centered on some point in the future. In the present moment, none of that fear-based negativity exists. The Course in Miracles text is 1,754 pages long, and the main premise is nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Each of my meditation videos will all have from 7 to 10 A Course in Miracles quotations, and after each quotation, I will have a short meditation. Here is the first Course in Miracles quotation. Quotation: In separation from your brother was the first attack upon yourself begun, and it is this the world bears witness to. Seek not another cause, nor look among the mighty legions of its witnesses for its undoing. A Course in Miracles. We're going to use the 4-7-8 method. The 4-7-8 breathing technique involves breathing in for 4 seconds, holding the breath for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: This world is but the dream that you can be alone and think without affecting those apart from you. To be alone must mean you are apart, and if you are, you cannot but be sick. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: No one can waken from a dream the world is dreaming for him. He becomes a part of someone else's dream. He cannot choose to waken from a dream he did not make. Helpless he stands, a victim to a dream conceived and cherished by a separate mind. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation: It is guilt that has obscured the Father to you, and it is guilt that has driven you insane. The acceptance of guilt into the mind of God's Son was the beginning of the separation. The world you see is the delusional system of those made mad by guilt. Look carefully at this world, and you will realize that this is so. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. In the dreaming, separate minds are seen as bodies, which are separated and which cannot join. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. Minds are joined, bodies are not. Only by assigning to the mind the properties of the body does separation seem to be possible. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. Sins are beliefs that you impose between your brother and yourself. They limit you to time and place and give a little space to you, another little space to him. This separating off is symbolized in your perception by a body which is clearly separate and a thing apart. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. Quotation. The acceptance of guilt into the mind of God's Son was the beginning of the separation, as the acceptance of the atonement is its end. A Course in Miracles. In breath. Hold. Out breath. The title of this video given at the beginning of this meditation was The Beginning of the Separation. The quotations that best elaborate on this will be shown here now. The text that I highlighted in green says, "In separation from your brother was the first attack upon yourself begun, and it is this the world bears witness to." This first quotation appears to imply that long ago, when man perceived themselves as separate beings with no connection to one another in any way, that was the first attack upon ourselves, and now the world bears witness to that. Again, the title of this video given at the beginning of this meditation was The Beginning of the Separation. The text that I highlighted in green says, "The acceptance of guilt into the mind of God's Son was the beginning of the separation. The world you see is the delusional system of those made mad by guilt." This quotation seems to be saying that, first of all, that the world is based on a delusional system of those who have been made by guilt. Second, it says that the beginning of the separation was caused by the acceptance of guilt into the mind of man, referred to as God's Son. Again, the title of this video given at the beginning of this meditation was The Beginning of the Separation. And the text that I highlighted in green says, minds are joined, bodies are not. Only by assigning to the mind the properties of the body does separation seem to be possible. This last quotation that I have seems to imply that we have assigned the properties of the body to the mind, and that makes separation appear possible. It also clarifies that bodies are not joined together, only minds are. Space Eternity Meditation. We're going to take an imaginary trip with your consciousness, and during this imaginary trip, we'll leave your body behind. To begin, see yourself standing in a large grass field. You've been given the ability to travel into space and to go anywhere you like. You don't have to worry about oxygen, collisions, or anything else, because only your consciousness will be traveling into space. You now have the intention and decide to go straight up into the sky. You are now flying up into the clouds. You then decide to pause and take a look around. You look down and see cities, streets, towns, and hills. Now you have the intention and decide to continue flying straight up. You are now in outer space, and it's mostly darkness with lights from stars and distant planets. You then slow down, pause to a standstill, and take a look around. At this point, you decide to go straight ahead in a horizontal direction. Meteors, planets, and other phenomena are racing by you. You then slow down, pause to a standstill, and take a look around. You again decide to continue in the same direction. You continue, and you have now traveled a significant distance while moving extremely fast. You then think to yourself, when will I reach the end of this universe or of this solar system? How will I know when I've gone as far as I can possibly go? You then realize that either there is an upcoming wall of some sort, or space just continues on. And you think to yourself, if there is some sort of a wall ahead of me, what about straight above me? Is there some sort of a wall there too? And what about straight below me and behind me? Is this universe or solar system contained in some sort of a box? Is outer space confined by a box with walls? And if so, what is behind the walls of this box? You think to yourself, if outer space is confined by a box and I go through one of the walls of the box into outer space again, then when does that space end? Is there another box enclosing the box that I just exited from? You then realize that the only thing that makes sense is that there are no walls or boxes in outer space, that space just keeps on going endlessly for an infinite distance. You realize that infinity is the only thing that makes sense when it comes to outer space. Okay, we're going to do a timelessness meditation. And again, take long, slow, deep breaths, but very relaxed. Don't make an effort of it. Okay, we're going to take a look at time now. To begin, see yourself standing on a long, almost endless sandy beach. You hear a loud, gentle, kind voice, and it says, each grain of sand on this beach is equal to a 100-year lifetime. And there are millions of beaches just like this one, with trillions of grains of sand on each one. How many lifetimes do you think you have? You have an infinite number of lifetimes for all of eternity. As you breathe in, see your consciousness diving down into a grain of sand. As you dive down into it, you see that everything is large, and you see that it resembles planet Earth. There are oceans and mountains and vegetations within this grain of sand that you just took a dive into. You keep diving down into the single grain of sand and feel as though you've been there before. It starts to look very familiar. You then realize that you will be starting a new life there, an entire new lifetime from birth to death. And you remember what you were told, that each grain of sand is equivalent to one lifetime, and that there are millions of beaches with trillions of grains of sand on each beach. You begin to sense what timelessness is. You begin to understand how time can just keep going on and continue endlessly, just like outer space. You realize that you are not the body that you see, that you instead are the spirit that surrounds the body. You remember that you've been told that you are energy, and that energy cannot be created or destroyed. You realize that you are an infinite being living in a timeless universe with no end. The body is just a costume.